Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time today from Slovakia Ring, right from the starting grid. It is time to top off Saturday's broadcasting program here from the Slovakian Grand Prix, and it is of course the 1 hour long endurance race of mixed GT categories. You are joining me on the starting grid right before the beginning of the formation lap. We've got a couple of minutes, so we'll take our usual stroll down the starting grid to see who's who and what's what, and actually who's where. It is again Miro Konopka, just like earlier on today in the sprint race. Well, he was starting from the front row, from the outside of the front row actually, but then scored a victory in the GT sprint. But now he is actually on the other side on pole position, having won the qualifying for the endurance race yesterday. And alongside him, it is HP Racing International of the pairing of Coach Mackenzie and Gerhard Twerase, joining them on the front row of the grid with their Lamborghini Huracan GT3, as you may see. So let's make our way, and maybe for a quick word with the local hero, ARC Bratislava, again making the fans happy and bringing the Dayglow yellow colors all the way to the top of the starting grid, of course, because we are starting with a rolling start. It is pole position on the inside line. So Miro, hello again the front row. It was the outside of the front row for the sprint, now it's pole position. What is your approach for the endurance race?
Same like in sprint, we want to win, of course. That start is not easy for us because that GT car have 200 horsepower more, but we will see how will be the situation.
How are you enjoying the weather? Do you prefer when it's not so hot and it's actually a little colder and maybe with more clouds?
It's super weather for race. It's very good weather.
Cool. Have a good one. Sorry, pardon. Second row on the grid. It is Schenki's Motorsport, Schenki's Motorsport, and their BMW M4 GT3. And let us just see and look through the driver helmet, because it's always interesting, well, for me as a commentator definitely, to see who's actually starting the race. And it is of course this time Risho Gonda opening the first stint of the race. Oh, he's now listening to his favorite music, or just making fun of me not to speak to you, Risho. Starting this race in your BMW, started the weekend with an engine change, but since then you've been going really well and performing really well. So what are your hopes for the race?
Yeah, we are very happy with this. The guys and all team made amazing work to prepare this, and everything is working at the moment. We have some good strategy. Hopefully the GTX cars will not interrupt our GT3 race too much. There are some fast powered guys behind, so hopefully I will stay here till first corner, and I'll try to do my best to bring the car home for Rudo at the best possible position, and yeah, we will see. Rudo is also pretty fast. He showed that in the sprint, so yeah, looking forward, and fingers crossed for Senker BMW.
This is like being in a different universe, because on another weekend we are co-commentators today together for a Formula 1 race. Now you are here racing, but you are also racing at home here. How are you enjoying the atmosphere here at home?
It's always great to see home fans here. It's great atmosphere, and this is the important weekend for whole racing at Slovakia here for Slovakia Ring. So we are happy to see the full grandstands here, a lot of people, and yeah, hopefully we can bring them as a home drivers good results.
So enjoy it, and if you are not slow, I'll say some nice words about you, okay? Risho Gonda for you, Schenki's Motorsport. On the other side of the second row of the grid, that is of course Olymp Racing with Christian Kozeňovský and Stanislav Jedlinsky. We have got the pairing of Max Grip and Reinhard Koffler, MZA Motorsport on row number 3, that's the P6, and alongside them is Jan Matyáš and Roman Robíček together, JMT Racing. And we're gonna keep walking a little bit, because we have got another driver that we didn't really see so much of, or let's say the car that we didn't really see so much of. It's the pairing of Viktor Mraz and Matjo Homola in P8. Matjo Homola had a technical problem in the GT sprint earlier on. The fan belt actually got broken in his engine. Luckily, it seems to be that the car is fine, so a simple change of a simple component brings the KTM back into life and onto the grid for the endurance race. And we have got full-in racing team on the inside of row number 4, and that is of course pairing of Petr Fulin and Jiří Navrátil, who is currently behind the wheel of the car, and he will be starting the race. Trevor Racing outside of row number 5, that is the pairing of Denis Vašek and Gregor Žigo, and then Antal Žigo on the other side of row number 5. That's Antal Žigo in his BMW M4 GT3. We are going to have to clear the starting grid because we're getting ready for the race itself. So it's the last one of today's program. Let's enjoy it.
Jsou určitě taky šikovní kluci a auta, tak jo.
Kelly.
Fifth endurance race of 2025 coming your way right now, as the cars are now alone on the starting grid, men and machines themselves, with all the team members, all the team crews already back in the pit lane, as we are approaching the beginning of the formation lap in just a couple of seconds. The final board being shown to everyone. Now let's run away with it. It's actually, the wind has picked up, needs to be said, so it feels a lot colder right now. I've been out there. You may also have noticed that I had to put on a sweater because although the temperature has remained similar, around 20 degrees centigrade, it's cloudier again and the wind has picked up, which means that at least when it comes to the feeling, it feels a lot colder now. And we are off to the formation lap. Once again, I'm going to remind you, 5,922 meters, so a pretty long racetrack. It is the 5th endurance race of 2025. Not the longest one though, because earlier on this year, we had a 3-hour endurance race here together with the European Truck Racing Championship. I mean, not exactly together on the same track at the same time, but on the same weekend, and that means that a lot of the drivers that you see right now on the track have already been here this year, having a longer endurance race, 3 hours. Now it is back to the original schedule, original time format, so 60 minutes for race number 5 of 2025. To be more specific and precise, it is 60 minutes plus 1 lap, and of course a rolling start procedure. So Miro Konopka on pole. In his ARC Bratislava LMP3 Ligier. And then we have got the pairing of Coach McKenzie and Gerhard Tverase. P2 in their HP Racing International Lamborghini Huracan. Everybody's twisting through the infield part of the track. Let's actually see the rest of the grid. So row number 2, that is in P3, Olymp Racing with Stanislav Jedlinsky and Christian Kořeňovský. And on the outside it is Schenkis Motorsports, well, basically Aries Racing, the car shared by Rišo Gonda and Rudo Beňo. Behind them in P5, JMT Racing and pairing of Roman Roubíček and Jan Matyáš. Alongside them, MZR Motorsports, KTM with Max Grip and Reinhard Koffler. P7, Petr Fulin together with Jiří Navrátil, Fulin race by Interaction. And alongside them, Karin Racing's pairing of Viktor Mraz and Maťo Homola. P9, Antal Žigo in his Racing Travers BMW, and alongside another Racing Travers BMW shared by Gregor Žigo and Denis Vašek. Same like the car in P12, although that's the older BMW M6. The drivers are going to switch the cars. And P11, that's Michanek Motorsports pairing of Jakub Knoll and Josef Záruba. Further down the field, 13th, Tomáš Miniberger from RTR Projects and pairing of Dan Skalický and Robert Lucák mladší, or Robert Lucák Jr. for DCR, basically. Former members of Duck Racing team as well. But we are now rejoining the start and finish straight. We have got 24 cars on the grid and we are underway with the Lamborghini of HP Racing taking the lead into the first corner. As usual, Miro Konopka dropping down the order a little bit, being quite careful at the start to be able to enjoy some good overtaking a little later on. Lockups here and there. Do we have a car in trouble in the first corner? No, we don't. So it is the HP Racing's Lambo leading us off from Olymp Racing's Ferrari right now. There is Fulin Racing's Audi R8, driven by Jiří Navrátil for the moment, in the fight with Trevor Racing's M4 GT3. And Rišo Gonda in third currently in his M4. A couple of Beamers up and down the field, and this is Viktor Mraz. Karin Racing managed to get the car going again, having had issues with the fan belt earlier on in the sprint. Ooh, and we've got a spinning car there in the second sector. Let's get back to that shot because that's a big crash on the opening lap of the race. That's a big one. That's definitely going to bring out the safety car, but this is not what we want to see right at the start of the race. This is one of the KTMs completely losing control at the exit of that left-hander and spinning across the track into the Armco. Let's see that again. Ooh, that was a big shunt. Nasty one. So the safety car is definitely out on the opening lap of the race. Just hope that the driver is okay. That appeared to be was it Tomáš Miniberger in the RTR Projects KTM. Let me check the live timing screen. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, it was Tomáš Miniberger losing control of his car on the opening lap of the race and having a big one It's a corner that you normally take, well, pretty much flat out, and you can also use quite rich and extensive exit curb there, which means that normally you do not see that type of errors there, but that doesn't mean that it cannot happen. And the trouble is that also there is just the Armco on the inside, no tyre barrier, nothing else, so that means that that was a pretty hefty hit, and I do hope that Tomáš is fine. Of course, the race is for now neutralized. Safety car is out, and I'm wondering whether we will not need the race to be red flagged, because the damage to the car, not only to the car but also to the barrier, seemed to be quite extensive. I mean, all of the Armco is bent outwards, of course. That is Mechanic Motorsports Lamborghini. I met Robert Zaruba walking towards it on the grid, getting ready for his first stint. And this is the car number 789 of Tomáš Miniberger, who remains to be sat in the car. Yeah, that is RTR Projects KTM. That was a big one. This is not really what you want to then face the barrier head on, pretty much perfectly perpendicularly, because in that situation there is absolutely no space for the energy to be absorbed. The car doesn't slide along the barrier at an angle, it just hits it really perpendicularly, and that's a big one. Then the car stops within a very short space, and of course then ricochets off it. But that hit, well, it bends the barrier. You also see extensive damage to the car, so a lot of energy was absorbed by the barrier and by the car, and of course on the inside by the driver. So it was a big shunt where the G-forces must have been really, really high. But look at that, all of the crash structure. It is an expensive car, it needs to be said, but it's got a carbon fiber tub. It's one of the modern real racing cars. KTM developed their cars from sort of track day specials to these full-on racers with a canopy style cockpit, and the entire, so to say, hull, the entire tub is carbon fiber, so it is very strong and it can absorb a really large hit, but at the same time it is I'm gonna say, well, really expensive then to repair. But first and foremost, we want to see the driver step out. I mean, obviously, when the car is being dragged away with the help of the driver still sat in, it must mean that he's fine. Otherwise, it would have been, yeah, absolutely unacceptable to be moving the car with the driver in some sort of health trouble. So this is sort of indirect confirmation that the driver must be fine. And we're just waiting for him to open the canopy and step out of the car, which we haven't seen so far. Safety car still on track, and it will be on it for a little longer, because one thing that we also need to keep an eye on is the barrier itself, as it was bent quite dramatically, and that means that of course it has already lost a lot of its absorption potential. And that means that should anyone hit the same spot again, then of course it could be a lot more dangerous. Let's see what the race control decides, whether we need to replace that segment of the barrier, and A will be driving behind the safety car for an extensive period of time, or if the race needs to be red flagged. But I believe that if the race really were to be red flagged or needed to be red flagged, it would have already been done. But it hasn't, so I believe that we may be just about fine there. but let's just see whether we need to replace that segment or not. There are track marshals on the spot of the accident, checking everything. Well, I will admit that we have been missing a little bit of a drama today, but this is definitely not the sort of drama we were looking for. So HP Racing's Lambo leading the way. Pairing of Coach McKenzie and Gerhard Verhaze. Stanislav Jedlinsky and Christian Kořeňovský currently in second, or they're Olymp Racing's Ferrari in second. Third place, Aris Racing. Berisha Gonda behind the steering wheel will be handing it over to Rudolf Beňo later on during the pit stops. So that's P3 overall. Miro Konopka with his LMP3 Ligier currently circulating in fourth. Max Grip, Reinhard Koffler, the MZR Racing's pairing in P5 overall. Antal Žigo worked his way up to sixth. And then Roman Roubíček and Jan Matyáš in seventh currently. Gregor Žigo and Denis Vašek. And we are speaking about the car number 79. Which will be the M4 Beamer, is then currently in 8th overall, and then Fullin Racing's R8 Audi in P9 from Victor Mraz, and Karen Racing's KTM in 10th. Michanek Motorsports Lambo in 11th, from Trevor Racing's BMW M6 in 12th. GTX KTM of RTR Projects. Let me check. RTR Project's other KTM. Oh, the car number 294, which is actually GT2 AMG Mercedes in 13th overall. Then the pairing of Dan Skalický and Robert Lucák Jr., car number 992 in 14th. Bob Bau in P15. And the pairing of Radim Adamek and Petr Čížek in 16th. Jan Birsa in 17th from the pairing of Miha Primožič and Matthias Lodi in 18th. And the pairing of Grega Šimunovič and Zak Šimunovič in 19th. Petr Koukola together with Václav Janík in 20th, Istok Arnix and Niko Pulic in 21st, Kalman Bodiš in 22nd, and then the pairing of Domen Jeram and Sandy Jeram in 23rd, and we've of course lost one car of Tomáš Miniberger, who is now out of the race. So a little oversight. P13, as I mentioned, pairing of Ondřej Rokos and Petr Lisa. They are sharing a GT2 AMG Mercedes rather than GTX KTM with which they raced in the past. Here we are further up the field. Antalgigo in the predominantly white M4 GT3 BMW. There is the Praga R1T, fielded by JMT Racing. And then the other M4 GT3 prepared by Trevor Racing. So the safety car will get back to the pits at the end of this lap, and we will be racing again here in Slovakia. So the lights are already out on the safety car, which is now making its way back to the pits, and we will go green again. The lap times obviously meaningless so far, although it does measure the fastest times as a system, but we are yet to complete a proper racing lap in its full length. Let's go green again with a green car leading us off. It's the HP Racing's Lambo in the first place from Olymp Racing's Ferrari, and then Aries Racing's BMW in third. Richard Gonda already having a little look down the inside on Olymp Racing's Ferrari. So we are green again here. Antalgigo in sixth currently, then JMT Racing's Praga in seventh. And Richard Gonda being a little wider in third corner, but having the LMP3 Ligier on his inside. Miro Konopka, having sat on pole position, is now coming through the pack. This is definitely what we expected, based also on the results of the sprint earlier on, and a lot of past experience. Of course, the D5 class prototype is in a different class, is in a class of its own, and should rather easily deal with the current race leaders, the HP Racing's Lambo and Olymp Racing's Ferrari. We've entered the second quarter of the race, at the end of which we're going to start performing the mandatory pit stops. Every car needs to visit the pit lane between the 25th and 35th minute. And if you race on your own, then you don't have to step out of the car, but you have to stay in the pits for 2 minutes. If you are racing in a pair, then of course the driver swap will take place. This is a fight towards the back end of the field. It's Boris Kalman and his Silver Sting, and he seems to be racing against one of the GT4 Mercedes cars, number 66. That is the pairing of Istok Armic and Niko Pulic. There's a fight for 21st overall. Let me just dissect that to categories. Display everything by class right now, which means that in the D5 class, which is specified for the prototypes, let's say, in which we have two cars entered, it's the LMP3 Ligier and of course also the R1T Praga. Then there Miro Konopka is leading with the fastest lap of 1:59.1 already. Among the GT3s, it is actually the Olymp Racing's Ferrari leading from Aries Racing's BMW and Trevor Racing's BMW driven by Antal Gigot. Those are the top 3 cars in the GT3 class. Then if we look at the GTX, it is then the unrestricted Lambo in the overall race lead right now. This is internal Trevor Racing's fight. And it appears that it would be Denis Vashek behind the wheel of this one. Slipstreaming past Antal Gigot, having a look down the inside into the first corner. This is a fight within the GT3 class for a podium position for 3rd place in the category. We have got the GT4s, and it is the pairing of Miha Primožič and Matthias Lodi in the lead from the duo of Petra Kokola and Václav Janík, and then Grega and Zach Šimonovič in 3rd in the GT4 class. Mechanik Motorsports Lambo alone in the GTC class this afternoon. And in GTC1 it is pairing of Dan Skalický and Robert Lutzák Jr. leading from Bob Bau and Jan Birsa. GTX, that's the overall leader, HB Racing's Lambo, shared by Coach Mackenzie and Gerhard Verase, currently also enjoying the fastest lap of the race, 158.7, which has just been topped by ARC Bratislava's LMP3 Ligier. Miro Konopka set even a faster lap of 158.664. But let's go back to the GTX class. It is then Max Kripp and Reinhard Koffler for the MZR Racing in 2nd in the class, and then the pairing of Victor Mraz and Maťo Homola in 3rd. Internal team fight of Trevor Racing's. Their 2 BMWs are now fighting for 3rd in the GT3 class. That is a GT4 R8 Audi together with an Aston Martin of Janík Motorsport. We've had a couple of cars in the pits already, which seems to be a bit too soon for the pit stop itself. Car number 70, the R8 Audi, the GT4 one, of Grega and Zach Šimonovič in 2nd overall. Sorry, 2nd in the class, not overall, of course. And the top 3 overall are still really closely matched. You see gaps under 1 second between the leading HP Racing's Lambo, Olymp Racing's Ferrari, there they are, and the LMP3 Ligier. Miro Konopka has already got past Olymp Racing's Ferrari. And there's your race leader. And it looks like the order in the lead is about to change, as Miro Konopka has caught up with the Lambo. It was Coach McKenzie driving it earlier on in the sprint. Now he's sharing the car with Gerhard Tveraza. But both of them lapping at very similar times. That of course could mean that, or could be caused by the fact that Miro Konopka is now being held behind the Lambo. We definitely know that the Ligier can go a lot faster. Blue flags being waved, but not entirely sure for whom now. Do we have a back marker anywhere in the mix? Because if not, then these are the race leaders and they shouldn't see a blue flag at this point. The fact that they are from different classes doesn't really matter. Another blue flag being shown. And there isn't, oh, there is a back marker. There is a GT4 Porsche Cayman. So, okay. And there was an attempt to move into the race lead. Slight look from Miro Konopka, pit window open. That's what I mentioned. That's why I was a little surprised that there were already cars that appeared in the pit lane. And in the meantime, Miro Konopka pounces and he is now your new race leader. And again, interestingly, it was actually round the outside of the tight right-hander on the infield section. I'm also looking at the clouds now because, yeah, it got cloudier again and a bit colder. But I'm not really sure whether it's even supposed to rain. This is Lemma Racing's GT4 Mercedes in the pits. Driver swap in process, car number 99, pairing of Miha Primožić and Matthias Lodi. And just judging from the overalls, I believe that it was Miha Primožić driving the first stint. Now handing over to Matthias Lodi for the stint number 2. So how about the clouds? It is overcast, but there isn't anything in the sky that it should rain from. So right now we should be actually safe. Mechanic Motorsports Lambo also coming into the view for their pit stop, and this is Karen Racing's KTM being serviced as well. Mathieu Homola is now going to take over the car. And more pit stops in the process right now. We've also got Fullin Racing's Audi in the pits. We have got Mechanic Motorsports Lambo, we've said that. And the car number 992, that's Skalický and Robert Lucák Jr. Which is the red and white Porsche 991. Oh, sorry, 911. 911, of course. We've also got Trevor Racing's M6 BMW, as far as I could see, in the pit lane. Okay, so the Karin Racing's KTM getting back. They lost a little bit of time, and the Mechanic Motorsport Lambo already seems to be through. Yeah, there they are, exiting the pits right behind one another. That means that Mechanic Motorsports Lambo has actually gained a place, at least one, just as we are approaching the halfway mark. We've also got the RTR Projects Mercedes in the pits, and we've got the Porsche number 846, which is Bob Bau. His car being prepared by the MZR Racing team. So the driver swap seems to be ready. This is Lemma Racing's GT4 R8 Audi also in the pits. What is he going to do to the overall standings and standings in the respective class? We're going to have to wait for that a little bit until we see who went where and who gained and who lost in the pits. We've got Fulham Racing's Audi out of the pits already. We've got the Silverstein with Bordisch Kalman also back on track. And we have got Mathieu Homola now quickly approaching Mechanic Motorsports Lambo. This is actually the onboard view from Karin Racing's KTM, driven by the two-time Eastern European TCR champion, Mathieu Homola. He was unlucky earlier on in the sprint, didn't finish the race, but now his car is back in the fight. This fight is getting more and more interesting. KTM really fast through the corners. There they are. Is he going to pounce? There was one of the back markers being lapped, but not here. It's not really easy to overtake around here if you are not really a lot faster. So the battle is continuing on. We should have Miro Konopka still in the lead, and currently also in the pits. There he is, and his Ligier in the hands of his mechanics, and this is the fight. Ooh, look at that. That is the GTC Lambo, the only one in its class, and then the GTX KTM. And there we are racing on. Mathieu Homola enjoying this fight with Mechanic Motorsports Lambo. other MZR Racing's KTM also in the pits. Careful about those hot brakes. Look how big they are on the front axle. Smoke coming out of them as they are currently really hot and not being cooled properly. It is the pairing of Max Kripp and Reinhard Koffler, and they started from row number 3, so it's a high-running car in this race. And we also see the development of the GT4 fight, because the Yannick Motorsports Aston is now in front of the Lemmer Racing's GT4 Audi. That is the race leader, or the erstwhile race leader, Miro Konopka, out of the pits, but having worked his way up the field, he's now fallen a lot back after the pits, it seems. Which of course is given by the fact that AHP Racing's and Olymp Racing's cars are only now in the pit lane. But let's see. They are there already, while Miro Konopka was leaving the pits just a moment ago. The pit stop window is now closed, which means that nobody's allowed anymore to enter the pit lane. Of course, the cars that are already in it are safe. Mandatory 2 minutes for the pit stop, simply to make it safer for the teams, that nobody's really rushing the driver swap. That means that safety is properly taken care of, like changing the seat inserts, properly doing up the belts, tightening them up. And of course the other reason is that the crews that do not swap drivers do not get an advantage. Otherwise everybody would just be running one driver in the endurance. Also, Aries Racing getting out of the pits. Trevor Racing's M4 is still there, being worked on. So there was Olymp Racing's Ferrari. And this is Macho Homola again, still stuck behind Mechanic Motorsports Lambo. So we are returning back to this fight. Still looks like the clouds that are there in the background could bear some rain, but looking at the radar map, it shouldn't actually bring anything. It's getting really close in some of the corners. And we've just entered the final quarter of the race. Yes, sorry, we didn't. We are halfway through the third quarter of the race. Made a little bit of a mistake there. Ooh, and we've got a problem. That's the GT4. Porsche came in the gravel trap, not really going anywhere. And this may very well bring out the safety car for the second time this afternoon. It's Lemmer Racing's GT4 Porsche Cayman, Domen and Sandy Eram sharing this car in this race. Safety car will be out. I think on one hand it's good that if it had to happen, that it happened after the pit stop window, because that means that we're not really throwing anything into the strategic fight. And the order is solely decided on based on performance from the first stint and performance of the crews in the pits. But now, of course, the safety car will come out on track and will neutralize the standings and also delete the gaps between all of the cars. So the whole field is going to bunch up again, and that should make for more Ooh, there isn't safety car. So the safety car is not on the track. I did believe that it would have to come out, but we didn't really see it come out, even though the race leader drove past the pits. That of course was Miro Konopka, who was back in the first place ahead of HP Racing's Lambo and Aries Racing's BMW, which also means that there was a change in the GT3 order, and since the HP Racing's Lambo belongs to the GTX class, we have got a change in the race lead in terms of the GT3 field, and that now means that Rudolf Benio, who has taken over from Richard Gonda, is now the GT3 race leader. Rudolf Benio showing really good performance earlier on in the sprint, being there in the mix with the top drivers with a lot more experience than him. So hats off to the progress that he's done. Over the past couple of years since he started racing. Here we've got a not even a double yellow, it's just a single yellow being waved of course, but no safety car. That is interesting. In the meantime, the Lemmer Racing's Porsche has just been lifted up. I'm not really sure what the track marshals are now planning to do with it, because I don't really think it would be the best of moves to just drag it through the gravel at such an angle. Maybe if we get back to that shot to see the extrication of the Porsche while Matteo Homola is still stuck behind Mechanic Motorsports Lambo. There they are. It's a close fight. It is a close one. Yeah. We are now re-entering the start and finish straight. Matteo Homola lining up for another attempt, slipstreaming past the Lambo. Headlights flashing to remind the Lemmer Racing's R8 Audi to jump out of the way as quickly as possible. But no move by Homola. He is remaining behind for the moment. They are of course not the same class, and this is the extrication process, the recovery process of the crashed GT4 Cayman, which is now being dragged away. There is Rudolf Benio, your new GT3 leader. And he has even made his way up ahead of HP Racing's Lambo. Look at that. That's some really good performance. we are even onboarding and showing you the fight right from the front row seats, so to say. But although Mathieu Homola remains really close, he is yet to launch a proper attack. Not really sure whether he even wants to do that. Ooh, now the Lambo was wide. Is he gonna send it? I highly doubt so. Little twitches through the corner from both cars, as they are really fighting for grip, with no change in the order. Is he going to try that around the outside? Mathieu Homola did have a look. We have the GT4 Aston Martin prepared by Yannick Motorsport, currently being a back marker in this fight. I'm pretty sure that the headlights on the Lambo were hectically flashing as both of the cars approached the Aston. But still no change, still no fight. And there he goes. Now he is probably as close as he's ever been in this race. Is he gonna try it? Is he gonna send it down the inside? No. Michanek Lambo covering the middle part of the track, the middle line. Going defensive. And around the final corner we go, back onto the start and finish straight, really close behind one another. Slipstream should work, but how efficient is and how effective is it going to be? Is it going to give enough of an advantage to Mathieu Homola to try something? No, it doesn't. And no, it isn't. And we've got another issue. That's not an issue, that's the GT4 Cayman returning back onto the track, but I presume just so it can drive back into the pits, which it does, because of course, having enjoyed an external help from the track marshals, you are not allowed to rejoin the race itself, which means that the Lemma Racing's Porsche is only getting back into the pits, and not just into the pits, but also directly into the paddock, and the car is now being retired. Just as one of the Twingos is being driven out of Parc Fermé. And there we go, through the paddock, just to show you the background of the racing action here. So now we are entering the final quarter of the race. Still the battle between the Lambo and the KTM is raging on. It is overall a fight for ninth. So let me just say what's actually changed. Ooh, no, not the time to do that, because Mathieu Homola was now trying to make a move. He went past the Lambo momentarily. Now they are slipstreaming down the pit straight. Is anything going to happen? Mathieu Homola does not have a look. So, it is still Miro Konopka leading by nearly half a minute over the rest of the field. And it is then Aries Racing in second, with Rudolf Benyon behind the wheel, also leading the GT3 class. Then we've got HP Racing's Lambo in third overall, leading the GTX class. Mathieu Homola trying to make a move, maybe around the outside, but it's really difficult to make the move stick around the outside in this corner because it's just so long. Shorter radius, but a long corner. The GT Formerk also there, and Mathieu Homola did have a look down the inside, but that door was getting shut quite quickly, and he of course didn't want to risk it. It's really getting close now. Ooh, slow at the apex, and now there is a dive down the inside. Finally a move from Mathieu Homola, drifting out of the corner. And I believe ooh, and that's a crash between them even. And Mathieu Homola in the wall. That is definitely not a development that we were expecting. Fire coming out of the exhaust system of the Lambo. And more of it. But both cars have crashed. So the fight was coming around for a really long time. And we were reaching the point where I was kind of thinking that maybe Mathieu Homola doesn't want to risk it. Since it's not his class, maybe he wouldn't even attack in the end. But then he got closer and closer and closer and closer. And then the fight got ugly rather quickly. So Mathieu Homola not finishing another race today. This time not for technical reasons, but because of a crash. Mechanic Motorsports Lambo being driven back into the pits. I'm not 100% sure whether this is Josef Záruba or Jakub Knoll. As I mentioned, I did see Josef Záruba walking to the grid before the race, but we didn't really manage to reach that road before the race to be able to have a proper look. So it will all get revealed in the pits. The car had an impact against the barrier. As it started rotating, it met the barrier sort of sideways and a little bit backwards, which also means that the rear spoiler is now damaged. And of course frustrated Mathieu Homola after this incident. Let's see that once again. This is where the fight started hotting up, and there was a contact entering the fast left-hander. Mathieu already started turning, but then they hit. There it is. It's really hard to see how much space there was on the inside. I believe there was some, if I could see that properly. But the reality is that the cars touched, and the Karen Racing's KTM ended up in the barrier, undoing all the progress since the start of this race, unfortunately. It will now be taken away from the track, of course. We may even have another replay for you, probably from the drone, if we can get it for you, because that seems to be probably the most revealing footage of the accident so far. Our broadcasting crew trying to get it ready for you. In the meantime, we're watching the race leader, Miro Konopka, already enjoying more than half a minute of a race lead, while we're seeing Adidas Racing's Porsche also in trouble near a barrier. Where is that? Pairing of Radim Adamek and Petr Čížek. That should actually be Radim Adamek at the wheel of the Porsche, now getting out of the car. As we are now watching the fight between Fullin Racing's R8 Audi and Antal Gigo's, well, Trevor Racing's M4 BMW. Radim Adamek out of his Porsche, trying to assess damage. Just as in the meantime Mathieu Homola is getting back into his KTM as it's going to be extricated by the track marshals. There he is, putting back the steering wheel, and he will simply help the marshals get the car away. car is now being towed away, being rotated to the correct direction, and it will now be carefully towed away from the scene of the accident. We've also got and this is the footage that we wanted to show you. There was space on the inside, so definitely we cannot say that Macho Homola would shut the door in that corner and leave no space for the Lambo. However, it appears to have understeered into the KTM, and there is Radim Adamek, there is his Porsche, so it's a similar spot. I was wondering whether that was a similar corner, because it appeared so from all the camera angles and everything else. Last 5 minutes in this race, and it's got a lot more, let's say, exciting and actually dramatic than what we thought. So Karin Racing's KTM out of the game, Aditis Racing's Porsche out of the game, Mechanik Motorsports Lambo collecting some damage, and also a big time loss in that incident. But what hasn't changed is the man in the lead of the race, and it's the home hero Miro Konopka, leading now by nearly 40 seconds from this car, which is Aries Racing and actually Schenki's Motorsport prepared M4 BMW, which is now leading the GT3 class. HP Racing's Lambo leading the GTX class, and this is Fullen Racing's R8 Audi, second among the GT3s, currently with Petr Fulin behind the wheel, having taken over from Jiří Navrátil, and then Antal Žigo's Trevor Racing's M4 BMW being currently third in the GT3 class. Then it is MZR Racing in P6, JMT Racing in P7, Olymp Racing down in 8th. Then again Trevor Racing's car in P9, that would be the M4 Beamer. And then Jan Birsa in P10. Final laps of the endurance race. It got quite heated lately, so now we are probably easing a little bit into a, let's say, calmer mood for the absolute final laps of the race. Two minutes left on the clock, and that can only mean one thing. We are about to beginning the penultimate lap of the race, because we will still have time for one more, and the format of the race is 60 minutes plus one lap. So second to last lap of the endurance. Konopka enjoying nearly 3/4 of a minute, but of course in his Ligier he has very little competition. Ooh, a bit more trouble right at the end. That is Bodiš Kalman's Silversting in trouble. Looking a little weird, the car in my mind not really properly leveled. Was there a puncture or a suspension failure, or it appeared a little odd, honestly speaking. There is the car. It looks like it's facing up a little bit than how I know the car, but safety car will bring the entire field to the end. Well, they may as well red flag it right now, honestly speaking, and they are red flagging it, looks like. They are they? Because the red lights are flashing. We've got the yellow flag out, and that means we will simply just complete one lap behind the safety car. We've got +1 lap, which is the final lap of the race. And yeah, at that point, we know that we are not going to go green anymore. The time is up. So, as I said, instead of doing one more lap behind the safety car, they may as well red flag it now and just finish it a lap early. Either way, Miro Konopka, well, he cannot overtake even a car that is supposed to be lapped, because this is a full course yellow, no overtaking allowed, and we are now going to be collected by the safety car. There it is, the Toyota Supra, probably going to, yeah, the R8 Audi shouldn't really be there, so it will be allowed to overtake the safety car, which it has done now. And this is now the race leader behind the safety car, so this will be it. We do not want any more dramas. Or let's say the race control don't want any more dramas right now, with another car stranded on the side of the track in the middle sector. So Miro Konopka will be victorious, scoring another triumph overall. Unsurprisingly, GT3 win is going to go to the hands of Richard Gonda and Rudolf Benio. Hats off to them, drove a really good race. And again, I'm gonna simply remind you of the fact that they basically started the weekend with a forced engine change, so had virtually no space at all and no time at all to set the car up properly or get going properly before qualifying. So the final practice, there was just reconnaissance laps and installation laps and then straight into quali. So it's then even more of an achievement for them. Coach McKenzie and Gerhard Tveraze will be victorious in the GTX class in their Lamborghini Huracan prepared by HP Racing. So we're going to go actually class by class. Let's do it like that. Miro Konopka, definitely no disputes about him. Roman Robíček and Jan Matyáš are going to come second in the D5 class. The other, so to say, prototype, it's the R1T Praga prepared by the JMT Racing team. GT3 victory goes to the hands of Aries Racing, or let's say Schenki's Motorsport prepared. Car driven and shared by Rudolf Benio and Richard Gonda. Second place in the GT3 class, that's Petr Fulin and Jirka Navrátil. In their Fulin Racing's R8 Audi. Antal Žigo in third among the GT3 cars from the pairing of Gregor Žigo and Denis Vašek in P4. Then Stanislav Jedlinsky and Christian Kořeňovský in fifth, and Gregor Žigo with Denis Vašek P6 again. GT4, that's a victory for the pairing of Miha Primožič and Matthias Lodi. Second place goes to Janík Motorsport, Václav Janík and Petr Koukola in their Aston Martin. Grega and Zach Šimunovic in third. Istok Armic and Niko Pulic in fourth, and then Domin and Sandy Eram in fifth. But they ended up in the pit 10 laps back. So this is it. This is the checkered flag. Miro Konopka celebrates his victory as I'm now going through the classes because the order is already frozen and neutralized. GTC, only car in the field, Jakub Knoll and Josef Záruba in their Mechanic Motorsport Lambo. Of course, their order not changed even by the clash with Karin Racing's KTM. Jan Birsa taking a victory in the GT1 class from the pairing of Robert Lucák Jr. and Dan Skalický. Third place for Bob Bau and fourth place for the pairing of Radim Adamek and Petr Čížek. Unfortunately, they did not reach the finish, having ended in the gravel trap in the middle of the middle sector of the track. Finally, GTX class won by HP Racing's Coach Mackenzie and Gerhard Tveraze. Then the MZR Racing's pairing of Max Grip and Reinhard Koffler in second in the GTX class, and then the RTR Project's Mercedes shared by Ondřej Rokos and Petr Lisa in third, from Kalban Bodiš, who actually stopped on the track to bring out the final safety car. Then we had Viktor Mraz and Matěj Homola not finishing the race after the clash with Mechanic Motorsports Lambo, and to not forget about Tomáš Miniberger, who unfortunately crashed his RTR Project's KTM on the opening lap of the race. So it's been an eventful hour, and we're going to show you which highlights it brought. what an exciting hour it was in the end. And with the view of the Parc Fermé being filled by the cars contesting the final race, it's going to be the end of today's program, but we're going to be back tomorrow definitely, so make sure that you join us again. We'll start with second of the 3 races of the Central European Formula 4 race just past the 10 a.m. and then we're coming with more races of the classes that you've seen today. So enjoy your evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back for more tomorrow, but for now and for today it is a very warm goodbye.